Singapore. Neglecting the people. Not one, but almost all of Lee Kuan Yew's ministers and himself have said repeatedly, with Singapore's small size, its people is Singapore's greatest asset. It has got to be, since there are no natural resources except the seaport. But we know now, of course, this is all a load of hot air. To use a stronger expression, one whole load of bullshit. Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore deliberately neglects its people. Which is why there is no hope really for this island. Education has to be key. And not just any education but a real one. The education that you give should equip the student to tackle the real world, to tackle the Englishman, the Irishman and the Bushman if you have to. Yes, you said it. They have to think independently. Not what is only politically correct, like they do now in that small island. So to educate the children, you get real teachers, not the timid souls we see in Singapore who are so afraid of Lee Kuan Yew that their students come out of their classes as robots, afraid to criticize Lee or anything that goes on around them. Since Singaporean teachers have already been brainwashed and terrified beyond help, you need to bring in real teachers with some backbone from abroad. Number 2. You have to feed the children. This means parents who are poor have to give an assistance. I mean real assistance, not just giving them $200 and asking them to go. Without money, they can hardly feed themselves, let alone their children. Consequence is poverty and neglect and a lack of education. After the kind of education they are only good enough to join Lee Kuan Yew's police force, only knowing how to obey orders and nothing else. They in effect have no brain at all. In its place there is a vacuum. Now if you provide good education and a meaningful financial welfare for the needy, you not only get better educated students able to compete and stand up to the rest of the world, you also get a grateful and loyal citizenry, one that supports and appreciates their country and their government. And such a population would work for their country, for their people and have a stake in the Singapore that they belong to. Now on the other hand, with Lee Kuan Yew completely neglecting the needs of their people, they not only have disregard for their government and their country, you also have contempt, and outright hate. In fact, a large segment of the people actually dislikes their life so much, they want to leave Singapore at the first opportunity. The leaders themselves have lost their respect totally. In Singapore, success depends not on your ability but how much you are appreciated by Lee Kuan Yew and his government. An aspiring student in Singapore now works primarily to achieve government recognition, beyond their personal ability. So that is why you see Lee Kuan Yew's recently hand-picked Minister for Law, K. Shanmugam, coming up with a spate of harsh laws restricting Singaporeans' human rights because that is exactly what will please his master. And as you see is the same for each and every Singapore government minister, member of parliament, civil servants and anyone holding any office of importance. No one truly respects any of them, as they all got to where they got, not entirely on ability but by, to use a colloquial farce, licking boots. Lee Kuan Yew's boots to be precise. And then when you see these ministers paying themselves the highest salaries in the world, for a small island like this, you then lose all respect for the government entirely. So what you end up is a people that have hatred for their government, and a government that neglects its people and their children. In these circumstances, there is no way you are going to have any success for this small island. Nothing at all. The only asset you have, the people, are themselves mediocre. In sum total, you have an uneducated workforce, a people that have hatred for their government. Where success is achieved primarily by receiving the recognition of the people at the top, and the constant insecurity of the lack of welfare and for everyone, even the rich, the fear that they might lose their jobs, or the patronage of the Lee Kuan Yew, which means instant poverty and misery. And then you have complete power in the hands of the government, with the people completely helpless to decide their own destinies. The government will decide, and you little people, or digits, as Lee Kuan Yew has called them, just obey. In truth, they are no longer citizens, they are slaves. And especially now, since we know for sure the 86-year-old octogenarian and strong man, leader for life, Lee Kuan Yew,